And welcome back, my people. It is a new day. It's a new day for me, but could just be a few seconds for you. But let's get going on our last portion of the motivation chapter, or shall I say, a little portion of our unit, and then we'll start with emotions. So we have work achievement and motivation. So what does that mean, right? So again, just kind of a little wrap up of how motivation connects to the outer world and how it can connect to our jobs. So people have different attitudes towards work. Some take it as a job that's necessary to make money. Some people, they take it as an opportunity to advance their career. Maybe they're a researcher, right? And also, some people go to jobs that they think is a calling to themselves, like fulfilling a social useful activity, right? So for me, um, I don't know. I feel like teaching is almost like a calling for me, but also, I go to big conferences and I go to, a lot of other schools to learn more to enhance my career, right? So I think I'm a little bit of both, but I definitely did not pick the money portion, right? So again, these are just different attitudes towards work that people may have. So there's something that's called a flow, and flow is an experience between no work and a lot of work. So you can almost think about winter break versus or summer versus school, right? And flow is marked pretty much. It's a little bit of a balance that we want to keep, right? So if we have no work, we tend to become bored, underwhelmed, maybe not feel like there's really anything that we can do, right? Some people feel stuck. Um, but on the other end of flow, when people have a lot of work to do, they start to feel anxious and overwhelmed. So it's almost like the arousal, the optimum arousal. We want to kind of keep a steady flow. We don't want to be, just sitting on our butts all day doing nothing, feeling, like we're not accomplishing anything, right? But we also don't want to be so overwhelmed that, we just crash, right? So it's again, kind of finding that balance. And people who flow in their work are driven less by extrinsic, which is money, praise, and promotion, and more by intrinsic. So people who find a really good flow it's partly due to because they have their own wants and their own goals. Okay. So industrial organizational psychology is a new branch. When I was at Sonoma State back in oh god 2012. They they were just starting a branch of psychology called IO Psych, and so that was actually new back then, and it's still one of the newer branches. But what IO Psych looks at is like applying the psychological principles to a workplace. Like, how cool is that, right? So we have personnel psychology, which is principles of selecting and evaluating workers, maybe seeing what their strengths and their weaknesses are, seeing how they work in groups. And then there's the organizational part of psychology, which is this is where people go into your work environments and they study how it's managed, the influence of worker motivation, satisfaction, and productivity. And so they go into companies that really need like a morale boost. And they think about it through a psychological lens, saying, what do the workers, what are they lacking? What do they need? What are they doing really well, right? So it's having a psychological lens on the workplace. So that's kind of interesting, right? So there's also two types of there's of motivation. There's competence motivation and achievement motivation. So competence motivation are the people that strive to be capable and exercise control. So people who just want to be able to do their jobs well, right? And then there's the ones that are achievement motivators, right? And we know people that are all in it for the rewards, right? They're all in it to outperform others, to get that medal. They want to be, the valedictorian. They want to have that achievement, right? So they're driven by achievement awards, right? And excelling over others, right? So how is this measured, right? So when we think about motivation, there is a type of test that you can take. It's called TAT, which is thematic apperception test. I always just call it TAT. So people are shown ambiguous pictures. And they write a story about what is happening in the picture. Very similar to almost like the ink block test, where like you have to see what you see, but you're telling a story. And how they grade it is essentially they determine the amount of achievement that's imagined by your stories, and they either so essentially by you telling your story, you're kind of also projecting what you want to accomplish well. So in a way, it's not a foolproof test, right? But it's in a way to compare with others. So again, they attempted, right? And when is it learned? So tends to be so motivation and achievement, right? It's usually learned throughout your life. So it's learned in early childhood, especially by parents. You know, once you start getting into sports, right, you start to get competitive. But what they find is high achievement motivation seems to stem from parents who encourage child to try difficult tasks, especially new ones, give praise and other rewards for success, encourage the child to find ways to succeed rather than complaining about failure. That's a big one, right? So avoiding that learned helplessness, right? Avoiding that learned helplessness, and prompt a child to go on to the next and more difficult challenge, right? So this is really growth mindset driven. Um, but yeah, I really like those stats. So that's it for this little motivation piece. And our next video lectures will be on emotions. Let's get into it. All right, see you guys soon.